Yes, it is a true tragedy. Unfortunately, of all the videos, my microphone had to be broken, corrupted. I don't know what exactly happened, but the audio messed up on probably one of the most coolest vehicles I can get my hands on. The 2015 G-Wagon, of course, the G63 AMG Benz. So that was a little unfortunate. Over 75% of the audio got corrupted. So that's okay though. You're not here to listen to me complain. You're here to know and understand what the G-Wagon is all about. So let's just get right into it. A little voiceover to save the day. I'm checking out this used G63 because there is a proposition to be made with this vehicle. And aside from the obvious, you looking like a Kardashian, Mayweather, you know, it's the vehicle, the status symbol, the icon of the rich and the famous, of course. So that's not the only reason why we should be interested in this vehicle. That's part of it. Don't get me wrong. That's a big part of it. You know, looking like a Kim Kardashian. You know, that's a big deal. But most importantly to me, though, this vehicle is obtainable, and let me explain why. I understand that the asking price of about $87,000 is steep. It's a lot of money out of most people's price range, and that is with 40,000 miles. And this particular vehicle is located at Cabriolet Motors. They are the lovely people who gave us access to this G-Wagon, along with many other vehicles, such as the 911 Carrera 4S that I reviewed here. So I'll leave a link down to that below. I feel like this G-Wagon, this used one, and like a used 991 911 is like the perfect two cars to complement a rather wealthy or well-off person, because both of these vehicles hardly depreciate. I know the asking price of like 70 to 80 grand is a lot of money, but if you buy something like this G-Wagon or like a 911, you won't be experiencing much in depreciation. The MSRP prices now, like of this G-Wagon, if you were to get a 2019 or above, because 2019 is when they technically redesigned this thing to give it that more curvy appearance, if you will, that's like $170,000 MSRP. So yeah, I'm sure the new G-Wagon is a fine vehicle and all, probably superior in every single way, but you're gonna be paying some superior prices for that, over $100,000 more to obtain that vehicle. So after that $100,000 depreciation occurs, it's actually really slow after that. So I would suggest getting a nice warranty for something like this and then proceed on with your life. You know, own it until the warranty expires, basically. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and let's talk about what this thing is like to drive. So driving the G-Wagon, is it as ridiculous as people make it out to be? Yes and no. So the biggest advantage that I've heard that the new G-Wagon has is that it's a lot smoother. It's a lot more stable. It's just a little bit more daily driver friendly. Now, that's not to say that this current generation isn't. I'm very pleased to say that even I could daily drive this car every single day. It's not like the Jeep Wranglers, basically, where, you know, it's just so unstable and like the wind noise is ridiculous. Actually, the wind noise is very well contained in this vehicle despite it riding so high. And even the tire noise isn't ridiculous. This thing is riding on 20-inch wheels, 275-watt tires in all four corners. And tire noise, wind noise, it's all average, actually. I mean, obviously, there is a bit of wind noise, of course. I mean, that's to be expected, but it's not as ridiculous as one might expect. Definitely far less than something like a Jeep Wrangler. And I'm only mentioning the Wrangler because it's honestly like the closest thing I can think of to this thing, right? This is just a more advanced and high-tech and more luxurious version of a Jeep in just about every single demeanor, as well as prestige, of course. But anyway, 5.5-liter V8 twin turbo, okay? The new ones use a 4-liter twin turbo V8. But this particular one produces about 536 horsepower and about 560 pounds-feet of torque. Now, 2016 fuel updates, I think it makes an extra 27 horsepower, something like that. So it puts in the 560 range for horsepower, but nothing huge there. Now, is this thing fast? Honestly, not really. I mean, this thing is like 5,700 pounds, nearly 3 tons. Despite the crazy horsepower and torque numbers, I mean, it's quick, but it's not fast. It easily merges onto the highway and all that stuff, no problems, but it's a quick car. I mean, the 0 to 60 rating for this ranges between 4.8 to 5.3 seconds, and yeah, I would say it's about 5 seconds for sure. It's not bad, but that's not what this vehicle is about, obviously. What this vehicle is about is rolling down the road, getting people's reactions to you the way, I mean, this is an icon, basically. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody's staring at you, looking at you. I mean, it's like an exotic car levels of attention that you're getting in this vehicle. So It's not like your typical GLEs or GLSs. Like, the G-Wagon has that military kind of commanding presence to it. And it's another thing, this is that military spec kind of vehicle. So when you have it out on the road, how's the ride quality? It's actually not bad. The ride quality is good. It's actually a decently comfortable vehicle, even with the large wheels. But I will say, over the roughest of bumps, you hear the bump, if that makes sense. You don't feel it necessarily. You kind of just hear like that sharp, kind of not so nice noise, but like obviously it doesn't really translate much into the interior. I ride so high, there's so much suspension travel. So ride quality, again, like I mentioned, it's not a bad vehicle to daily drive in. Now, stability, there is a slight issue there. It's not as bad as something like the Jeep Wranglers. Now, I've only driven the JL Wrangler, like the 2019 Wrangler basically. But this is better than that, but there is still, I notice it. You have to kind of correct for it with the steering wheel. And here's the other thing, the at-limit handling, which nobody's going to be doing in this vehicle, but if you're going to really push this thing, kind of like how I did here, you're going to notice that, you know, it's not going to tip over, but like it kind of has that little sensation to it. It's not a vehicle that you want to push basically to the absolute limits. It's just not necessary, and it doesn't inspire that. When you drive this car calmly at a more sedate manner, what you're going to find is this thing is, it's about 187 inches long, so not a huge vehicle actually. It's very tall. It's got that menacing presence to it, but it's not a very long vehicle. It actually kind of pivots around turns rather easily and effortlessly. So around parking lot speeds, you know, backing this vehicle up, doing U-turns, it's actually not that bad. You can actually maneuver this seemingly large vehicle around quite effortlessly, and it has a pretty decent demeanor to it when you just drive it normally at normal speeds, normal flexing speeds. This thing is very satisfactory. That's what I'm talking about. It's a good daily driver, and it's rather interesting to sit in, like the seating position. The front windshield is completely vertical. You know, it's got a totally different sensation. This is a proper SUV, baby. I mean, there is none of these other kind of car-based SUVs can compete with this. Like the way it feels, I mean, it feels rugged, and, you know, I'm not even going to go into this, but the obvious off-road capabilities, right? You know, locking all three diffs and, you know, climbing up the, you know, Eiffel Tower backwards. You know, this car can do everything, but that's not the point. The only thing you're going to be climbing is the curb on the Nordstrom parking lot, or the Starbucks parking lot, that is. That's all the off-roading you're going to be seeing in this thing. Just regular cruising down the boulevard, making sure everybody sees you. For that purpose, this vehicle, fantastic. I personally do not have an issue daily driving this thing. Will a 2019 and up be better? Of course. I've heard the stability is far better. Even the at-limit handling apparently is better. However, you're paying 100 racks more for that. I'm not prepared for that, and I'm glad to say at least this one is decent to daily driving. Just don't push it insanely. You have to be a little bit more wary, but it's actually not as ridiculous as most might make it out to be. So I'm very happy to report that. Just listen to that nice burly V8. You know, it's kind of got like that shorter exhaust, right? So you kind of hear it a little bit more. It's not a full kind of long exhaust piping basically. So it's not crackling and popping, but it's got a good tone to it. It's good, but it's not obnoxious. So again, good daily. I enjoy driving this thing. I think some of the audio towards the end of my review kind of got saved there. So I'll kind of play through some of that. I think I kind of summarized my real-time driving, so you can kind of get a good feel for that there. Despite its shortcomings, it's like, the best way I can describe it is it's like daily driving a cop car. You know, you don't daily drive a cop car because it's like the epitome of quality or like a driving experience. You drive it because it's fun. You see what I'm saying? To see everybody's reactions, to see how people look at you. That's what makes a cop car fun out on the road. This similar concept, even though it's not a cop car, obviously, it's just the way people look at you when you pull up in places. You feel like $1,000,000 in this thing, and it's very solid in here, as we're about to see in the interior segment. But very impressive driving experience. I like the steering weight also. It makes it very easy to drive. That's what I'm saying, man. You have this incredibly burly exhaust, great sounding vehicle, and it's just fun to kind of get in on that throttle, not because it's a fast vehicle, but because of how amazing it sounds, the way people look at you, how easy it is to drive, surprisingly. I mean, you know, it's just a big box, right? I mean, it's very easy to see around this vehicle. That's not an issue, and people know what this thing is. It's an icon, so that's why you buy this. Hopefully that made sense to you. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts on driving the G-Wagon. Let's go ahead and let's transition into the interior segment now. All right, so talking about this interior space. So I was actually surprisingly impressed with the drive, but also this interior space. I'm actually quite fond of this particular interior space because this is that older generation Mercedes-Benz interior. Now, I obviously like the newer Benz interiors, of course, but I will say the solidity of the newer cabins isn't that great until you step up to something like an S-Class. Now, this generation, this older generation of Mercedes interiors that I experienced in this G-Wagon as well as other vehicles like the older GLEs, MLs, things of that nature, it's actually really solid. When you kind of touch up against things, it's not really creaking or anything like that like some of the newer Benz products. It's actually, it remains solid and there is no creaking and rattling with this vehicle. So again, I really actually like the interior. I feel like this G-Wagon is more so of a classic G-Wagon. Some don't really like the new curvy nature of the new vehicle. They say it kind of goes away from the roots of what a G-Wagon should be. I don't know about all that, but I will say the way that this vehicle has aged, it's very good. It's got the older, more simple, smaller screen. It is kind of stuck up on there, but you kind of use that rotary knob. Not too bad to get used to. It's got a few features in there. It's got the Harman Kardon. I believe it's a 12-speaker audio system. Sounds decent, nothing amazing, but it's a very good, doable audio system, so I don't mind that. You have one-touch auto windows for all 4 windows, but they don't go up one touch, which is kind of unfortunate and kind of strange. And no use of double pane glass, although that would have been something that could have taken this vehicle to the next level in terms of being a quieter vehicle, although I totally find this to be a decently refined space for what this vehicle is and what it's trying to be. Seats are actually really supportive and they actually bolster you in a lot. So if you're actually a kind of a wider individual, you might have issues fitting into the seat. So something to check out. But you have this gorgeous diamond stitching and like everywhere, all throughout the vehicle, on the door panels, the seats, and the seats have aged extremely well, mind you. So that's great leather quality in this vehicle. And even in the back, in the trunk area, you have like this nice diamond tread stitching there as well, in places that don't even matter. So attention to detail, surprisingly very good in this vehicle, even for the time. I mean, 6 years old, not super old, but you know what I mean. Not too much in terms of storage. I do like the physical handbrake that this vehicle had, and the gear lever knob, the kind of electronic gear lever knob was actually pretty nice to use. I don't mind it. It has the AMG logo imprinted in there. Basic gauge cluster, very easy to understand. Again, a nice, usable, basic interior space. Nothing too crazy, just some nice quality materials being used all around. A little bit of space in the center armrest and not too much in the glove box, but not really much space for cup holders. You have like this basketball hoop thing, and then the door pocket space has a bit of space in there too, so that's not too bad. Now, back seats, like I mentioned, it's only about 187 inches long total, this vehicle. So what ends up happening is you don't have a whole lot of rear leg room. Now, some people might complain about this, but honestly, Range Rovers don't have a lot of rear leg room either. So you should know what you're buying into with this vehicle. I mean, you're not buying this for it to be like this super practical experience. This is a big old swag machine, big flex machine, shows you got money to blow and to spend. It's an icon, it's a status symbol. That's what you get it for. There's 3 seats back there. You can squeeze some people in there, sure, but it's not a whole lot of space. Obviously, headroom is great. It's not an issue. But seats continue to be very comfortable back there, and you have vents back there as well. Now, the trunk is massive. Huge trunk. You can do all your IKEA shopping back there for sure, no problem. The load floor is obviously higher because the whole vehicle sits up higher. And it actually makes getting in and out of the vehicle, well, you have to use a little step ladder thing. So something you have to keep in mind. It's not like those car-based SUVs where you can just slide your tush in and out. It's not one of those. So you have to use a step ladder, and to get things in and out of the trunk, you do have to actually lift it up a little bit. There's no extra storage space underneath, but you can actually fold the seats down, but it doesn't lay down flat, so something you have to keep in mind. Now, finishing off the trunk, I'm going to talk about that big old spare tire thing you got attached to the rear, lift gate thing. It's not a lift gate, but you know what I'm talking about. That door, right, that you have to open to access the trunk. So you got that big old tire right there. It gives it a nice military look. I love SUVs that have this spare tire mounted up like that. It's a great look. I love it. So this vehicle has it. So rear visibility somewhat obstructed by that, but fortunately you got a backup camera, and the wheel does obstruct the camera view a little bit, but at least you can see when you're backing the vehicle up, like how much the wheel is sticking out, so you can kind of compensate for it. So I don't mind it, actually. So I don't mind backing this vehicle in. I don't mind kind of maneuvering it around parking centers, nothing like that. I was actually never intimidating driving this car. So that was one of the things I noticed with this car that I really liked. It's not intimidating. I can sit here and talk about all the specs and how amazing it is and how it can climb over everything and do all these crazy nutty things that you're honestly never going to do. You're going to enjoy that motor. You're going to enjoy people looking at you. You're going to enjoy people giving you the respect that you deserve now. And that's what this vehicle is all about. It's a smooth driving experience. Steering is smooth. Everything about it is easy to drive. Just beware. Don't take it to its limits. Don't try to do things that you probably shouldn't do with this thing out on the street. Don't try to show off in it. Floor it, hear the engine, and just cruise around in it at regular speeds, and you'll enjoy it. You're not going to enjoy the MPGs, the 12 city, 14 highway. That's not cool. That might eat into some of your depreciation savings, but no matter. It is what it is. Cost to be the boss, right? So I'm a fan of these older G-Wagons. I think it's a buy, but let me know in the comment section. If you're a fortunate owner of one of these types of vehicles, what are your thoughts? Or even if you own something like a G550, let me know your thoughts. But sorry, guys. The audio crapped out. It was very unfortunate, but it is what it is. You know, things like this happen, but at least I can voice over it, and at least I can still provide you guys with this review. And hopefully I answered a few people's questions. Again, leave some thoughts below in the comments or any questions below in the comments. But I'm going to leave all of Cabriolet Motors information down in the description box. They are located in Raleigh, Morrisville, North Carolina. So if you want to buy this car, go ahead. They house many other cool vehicles, I suppose. C8s, bunch of Porsche 911s, Ferraris, you name it, they got it. So have fun looking at their website, but take care and goodbye.